Hi everyone, Gary Morris here with a very special podcast here for you on the fourth official. Now, joining me on this show is the star of a very successful SWPL2 campaign this season for Queen's Park. It is, of course, a warm welcome to Ellie Kane.
Hi, Gary. No, thank you very much for having me. It's good to talk to you.
And I think the reason why we've invited yourself on is obviously just to speak about just what a season it's been, both not just for yourself but also for the team for Queen's Park this year. It's been a phenomenally successful season for yourselves as a team, and you must still be on cloud nine after winning the title.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a bit surreal, especially having won it with so many games still to go. So, um, as much as the end is in sight, we've still got to keep our heads down and keep a bit of focus on the league. So, we've enjoyed the celebration so far, but definitely still plenty to come for the end of the season.
And if I cast your mind back right to the beginning of the season, when you were kind of getting the kind of outlay for what the season was going to look like for the team, was promotion, was winning the league, was that the ultimate goal, or was that something that only really started getting spoken about as the season started to progress?
No, it was absolutely always in the plans. Even last year, I think we kind of got the ball rolling on this was kind of we were going to make this our year. We were at Lynx Park for the last game of the season last year when Montrose lifted the trophy, and I remember Ian Cairns, our photographer, saying, "Well, that'll be you guys next year." And now that it's here, it's quite funny that it's done a full circle. But at that point, we kind of got the taste for what it could be like, and we only had a couple of weeks off of pre-season last year. We were straight back in probably weeks before most teams. So we wanted to put in the hard work early, lay the foundations, and Joyce and Ian at the club made it obvious that promotion was our main goal, and whether that be through obviously second place in a playoff or winning the league. But it was always in the forefront of our mind. So to finally get it over the line, I mean, it's really good and it's great for the club and great for the women's side especially because it's our first taste of SWPL one.
Yeah, and I think if you look at it, we've spoken to a lot of people in the women's game over the course of the season. The growth in the game, particularly over the last kind of 3 or 4 years, has been astronomical, and the interest that's there in the women's game, the crowds are bigger than they've ever been. You've obviously got the three big Glasgow teams in the Premier League with the Old Firm and Glasgow City, who have been dominant at this level for so long now. But you see what teams like kind of Partick Thistle, what Hearts and Hibs are doing, and there's so many teams now that have just grown strength by strength. And you look at what Queen's Park are doing as well, that there's proper investment in it. It's not just a sideline. There's proper attention paid to it to do it justice.
Absolutely. As you said, it has propelled the last few years, which is great to see, obviously. The crowd that some of the big clubs as well are getting in, especially that one at Parkhead last year, which drew a lot of media attention. And I think it's just got people interested more in general than before. You come across a lot more, especially guys nowadays that have a hand in the women's game and things, and they know more about it than they would have a few seasons ago. So it's definitely going in the right direction. And as you said, there's teams like Hearts and Hibs who are making big moves towards obviously full-time football. Teams like Partick Thistle, who a few years ago were where we are just now in the SWPL2 fighting to get up. So there's definitely a pathway there for us to move up and be successful in that league. And I think that's what the club are working on behind the scenes already is how we keep ourselves up there and not just stay in that league but push up it. It's obviously a goal of ours to do what the likes of Thistle and things have done for a couple of years, maybe to be in that top eight, top six category. So definitely a lot of work that will need done, but it's definitely not out of reach.
And is that something that obviously the club are talking about for next season? Obviously, being up in the big league, obviously competing against maybe the big three, Hearts and Hibs at this stage is maybe a little bit of a stretch. But certainly, from what I've seen this year, that bottom six in the SWPL one, there's not a great deal, I think, between most of those sides. And we spoke to the Hamilton Accies women's manager right at the beginning of the season, and he was talking a lot about the balancing act between the part-time clubs, because all the girls have obviously got full-time jobs or part-time jobs, and they're balancing that with the training and the matches, and it's difficult to obviously compete that with the full-time teams who are in all day every day for training, and then the games at the weekend. So is that something that obviously Queen's Park are looking at in terms of how you first kind of bridge that gap with the top league part-time teams first of all?
Yeah, well, obviously, at the stage we're at just now, we're having just won the league. I know that the ball's already rolling with the club. They've already held a few meetings with the coaches and things, and they definitely want to make the right moves. Obviously, I'll leave that to the guys that make those decisions, but the the league structure as well. There's always been that gulf between the teams who have the money and the teams who it's maybe just expenses, or in some cases they're not getting nothing. But as I say, it's moving in the right direction, but things like the split, of course, adds a lot of excitement. At the moment, there's about 3 or 4 teams who could fall into the relegation zone by the end of the season, and it's a chance for them to pick up points, which makes it more exciting. So, it's as much as there's still a gap, I would say it's closing, um, slightly, of course, but there's still work to be done. Um, but I think, like with the structure of the league, as I said, with a split at the end of the season, it still makes it exciting even for those clubs who don't have the financial backing as much, that they're getting a chance to put their mark in the league and stay up and things. So there's no reason why we can't be the same. Of course, the financial side between a team like Queen's Park and maybe Rangers and Celtic, it's a bit unrealistic to expect as much as they've put in, but like every little helps at this stage. So we trust the club, and we'll know that they'll make it happen hopefully for us.
Yeah, and on a personal level, how excited are you about the prospect of games next season against the likes of Rangers, Celtic, and Glasgow City?
It's really exciting. I played at Accies previously in the
Hmm.
SWPL one, but that was a few years ago. So I've had a taster for it, but I'm really excited for next season with us, just because I feel like we've got a really good core group at the moment, and there's a lot of potential in that team that we can go out and perform well. And it's never easy against the big guns, as they say, but it's always a great learning opportunity, and we're just so excited to test ourselves against the best in the country. We've wanted to do all season, and we just need to relish in that opportunity.
And obviously, on a personal level for yourself, Ellie, you mentioned your kind of previous experience at Hamilton in the big league. But I think even just a couple of years further down the line, the way that the league's grown, even since you were there the last time, it must be exciting to obviously be back up there, because you're now potentially got the prospect of maybe playing at some of the bigger stadiums as well, rather than before when, let's be honest, some of the women's games weren't necessarily played on the greatest of surfaces or in the greatest of spotlights.
Yeah, absolutely. When I was at Accies, we were one of the only clubs that were playing at like a stadium venue, or playing at the men's stadium. So it was special in regard that we were one of the only few ones. But now there's every almost every team in the league's got a facility. Obviously that'll be ours is still open to questions for next year. We don't know where we'll be playing at the moment.